Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's up, everybody? It's your girl Khadijah, and you are listening to In Trance, the podcast where we are the deliberate creators of our own realities, united in light during the darkest hour. We foster spaces of love, acceptance, and truth because we know we are one people living through different simulations we define and choose to be our own truths while living in a co created environment within multi dimensional realities. With that being said, we're just curious to see how others create their worlds of knowledge and overstanding for us to get a better understanding of the experiences that they experience. So, everything we're going to say, you already know. You don't have to agree or disagree. It's just about us sharing knowledge, sharing what we know to be true, it's just and actively listening, right? We're not agreeing, we're not disagreeing, we're listening. We're actually doing that. So, without further ado, I have this amazing, beautiful guest called Precious Watkins. She was raised in the west side of Chicago, but grew up in the west suburbs. She walked a journey where her self identity was lost and had to be rediscovered. She got pregnant at an early age and became a single mother of one. And she struggled to find herself. But when she did find herself, she went through self development, and she's even a life coach and health a life and health coach certified. And when it comes to this woman, it's just so beautiful watching how even she is an advocate for other children finding their voices and being who they are. So without further ado, I introduce you to Miss Precious Watkins. Hey, Precious.
Hello, how are you?
Well, how are you?
Great. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having.
Yes, I had to have you. I think your story is phenomenal, and just even just us meeting before is just so many amazing points about grandmother's blueprint or the 21st century parenting, and what that looks like, and how our generation is really good about healing and kind of looking at our trauma and deciding, you know what, we're going to take control of our narrative, whereas the generation that may have raised us more avoidant, didn't necessarily face themselves. But they did what they had to do to get us to where we are, I suppose. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. So, Miss Precious,
Yes.
tell us about this amazing new book that you have out.
Complicated Tears. So this book, it's a self-care book. Every woman, every person, but solely I'm speaking to is women can relate, whether it's having a narcissistic parent, narcissistic spouse, whatever the case may be, self identity issues, single parent, whatever the case may be, someone will be able to relate somewhere in this book. Highly recommend it. And I'm not saying it because I wrote it, just because it's a great self care book with questions and quotes that will make you reflect. And I just recommend it.
I love that. And I know one of the points that we talked about, I love how it's dedicated to women. although men can read it, but it's really something that you wrote near and dear for yourself and for your from your heart. I know one thing we talked about is the just the challenge of being a child, and even reading the beginning of your book where you talk about basically how you couldn't have that voice, or you had to stay in a child's place, and you were wondering like, well, damn, can I say anything? Like, how was that?
It was the experience was not fun, but I'm grateful for it. Because it taught me how to be an active listener. I had a staring because I wanted to know what you were thinking, why you were thinking it, when you were going to say it, and why you were saying it. And when you said it, what made me different? How come when I voice it, I'm disrespectful? So I would just always observe, and people will call it nosy, but I'm really just trying to see what makes me different. So as a child experiencing that, it wasn't fun at all because anything you did or said, it was like my rights were taken away from me. Freedom of
Mm.
speech did not exist. It's like, I'm the parent, I'm the adult, you sit down, you stay in a child's place. And it was like, but I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And from what I understand, you were raised by your grandmother.
That is correct. My mother was around. However, she was always working a job or living her life for her, whatever that means. I don't know what
Mhm.
it means because I was wondering where she was at. How
Mm.
if she wasn't working or sleep, I don't know where she was at. But yes, I was raised by my grandmother.
I love that. I love that. And what would you say is like some of the, because as one of the questions, that prompt question was, what does the 21st century parenting look like with your grandmother's blueprints?
With my grandmother's blueprint, she when I since I was a little girl, she would always say, always remember these three S's. And I was like, okay, grandma. And three S's are stacking, which means no living with a boyfriend, no settling, and that's for anything, not just man, and no jumping in the sack too soon, which she's what court you. That if he doesn't court you, don't jump in the sack. He's not worth it. And I didn't understand when I was little, but as I grew into an adult, I'm like, oh, that's what my grandma meant. And with her
Mm.
leaving me that blueprint, it's like, I look at you different because my grandma told me not to do none of these things. Therefore, you're wrong. My grandma was right.
Yeah, I love that. I love that your grandma was able to influence and create that blueprint, because there were, I would say, the old school compared to the new school, there were boundaries,
Yes,
that were set up. There were expectations and
yes.
roles. How do you think that that differs from like the newer school?
It differs from the newer school because everything is about attention. Um, how toxic I could be to keep a man, how argumentative I can be, who's right, who's wrong. It's just more so you can't fight fire with fire. And that's what I was taught by my grandmother. You can't fight fire with fire. You can't fight toxic with toxic and expect clear blue skies. So it just changes everything. If you think about the 90s, think about your Nia Long, Aaliyah's, and so forth. They didn't show everything. They left everything nation, and they were respected. I'm not saying that men were perfect back then, but now today I feel like dating is rigged because we ask for too much. The authentic women are underrated.
I love that. And what is the authentic woman?
The authentic woman is a woman who doesn't keep up with the Jones, a woman who knows her worth, a woman who is not willing to settle, a woman who's not willing to shack or jump in the sack too soon. You must date me. You must court me. You must respect me. And it's so many women of today that just want a man to say they got a man. Or it's so many women who are afraid to leave a man because they don't want to be alone. So when you're that headstrong woman that has a clear view, and that therapeutic view of this is what I deserve, you're always asking for too much. But I'm really just a woman that's looking to be respected.
I love that you said that. I really do love that you said that. And audience, I know you all are watching, feel free to be in the comment section and make comments or um, just anything that resonates with you. One thing that really resonates with me while you're saying this is like boundary setting, um, and how it just seems like there's like this big run amok. But what I've noticed is when a woman is, there's a difference between a strong woman and I feel like that feminist independent woman. You know what I mean? And what I mean when I say that is like, like there's this stereotype that because I'm independent, it means that I can't be like submissive or something. And I
Exactly.
don't think that that's not the same. Like I'm not. I know I can do more than what you can do. There's no comparison to that. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? And it's like women are actually degrading themselves, downplaying themselves by comparing themselves to a man.
Yeah. And if women just understood the power that we had, the world doesn't move without women. Like it doesn't move without us. If every woman in the world said, you know what, give me a hysterectomy today, who's gonna reproduce?
Yeah,
Who's gonna reproduce? Women do. We create life. And I just feel like women of today are lost. And I'm like, did you guys have a grandmother like mine?
yeah,
Because, and I'm saying this because I don't know what kind of woman I would be without my grandmother.
yeah.
In all honest, I don't know.
And that's tough, you know, because the grandparents. I mean, it's so interesting because the grandparents have that traditional kind of role. I know that you said that when you got pregnant at 19, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I was 18. I had my son at 19.
okay, so you were pregnant at 18 and you had your son at 19.
Correct.
So um, what happened at 22?
At 22, I got my first career job, and I started to I gained so to wind it back a little bit before 22. I lacked self-esteem. I was still running around keeping up with the Jones, just trying to find my way, trying to fit in with any group because I was teased all my life. So I'm like, oh, okay, if I do this, I'll be accepted here. And just looking for love in all the wrong places. And thank God for my son. Ended up with a baby, whatever. Life goes on. At the bottom of each page of my book, I have build a bridge and get over that shit. And that's what I had to do. Build a bridge and get over that shit. However you want to go about it is you still got to go about it. So you pick how you want to go about it. So at 22, I job hopped. I had this telemarketing job. Then I got this job as at a financial institution. And it was the best thing that could have done. It was the start of my confidence. It's like I had no experience in what I was going into. And it's like, wow, someone believes in me outside of my grandmother. And then after that, I I was working. I was happy. And then at 23, I would say is when everything changed. Everything
Right,
when I wasn't emotionally available to my son. I was never abusive or anything. I just wasn't there. And I had a turning point. It's like if I don't change who I am, I'm gonna repeat the same cycle. And in order for me to break that, I had to reflect on me and what I'm doing different. If I didn't deserve it, why does he deserve this treatment? So that's what happened at 22, 23. I had my turning point.
mm, I love that. And when like when you realize that you were caught up in a cycle, like what did you actively do to stop that?
I I, I paid attention to what was affecting my peace and what was a trigger for me to revert. I paid attention to how I entertained the things that would trigger me to disconnect from being a parent. So just paying attention to my surroundings a little bit more and staying in alignment of where I'm trying to go versus who I used to be. I no longer want to be that person. And I just stayed in alignment with where I was going. And here I am today.
I love that. And when this book, like when this book, I remember you said, I wrote down here, when you said you didn't want your son to one day write his memoir and for you to be the villain.
Correct. I didn't want to be the villain. I didn't. And this is because a memoir is that person's truth. And I didn't want his truths to be the same truths that mine are with my mom. I want
Mm-hmm.
truths to be pure. I want his truths to be happy. I want his childhood experience to be different than what mine was. I did not have a horrible childhood. Let's just say that for the record. However, it wasn't the most peaceful childhood.
Yeah, and I know you said that you had your cousins around and you all were pretty similar in age, so you were able to have a lot of fun. So it's not just all like traumatic, you know what I mean? You had your fun in there, but it's also in the raising and in the individual raising. I know one thing that you said also was that you can't control the truth,
You can't.
and so how do you? You said a manipulator will always be shaken up by truth.
Yeah, they'll always feel attacked by the truth because it doesn't fit the narrative that they want to create in their mindset. So once you go against what's in their mindset, they feel attacked. But it's
Right.
the truth. But it doesn't fit your narrative. It's not my fault.
Right.
And that's why I said when I asked the question, my mom initially thought that my book was an attack on her. And I told her it's not, it's just my story. And I asked the question, I said, if you were the good guy opposed to the villain, how would you feel? I can't control the bridge that you built that I had to cross. You
Right.
built the bridge. I just crossed it.
Right. And I'm telling my story while I cross it.
That's it. That's it. That's all. And my story is to help other women understand that life goes on no matter what. No matter what. There's light in your darkest tunnel. You just gotta dig deep. You might have to crawl, search high, search low, revert a little bit, move forward to find it. It's light in your darkest tunnel. And if it doesn't
Um,
now, it'll make sense later.
mm, if it doesn't make sense now, it'll make sense
Yes,
later.
typically that's how it works. Everything happens for a reason. There's a chapter in my book titled Everything Happens for a Reason.
And do you find yourself often like connecting the dots backwards?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. For example, I don't know if we talked about this on our pre-interview when
Hmm.
my book writing journey started. Um, it started because I was dating this amazing guy. I won't say anything bad about him. I can't say nothing bad about him. Amazing time. He came in my life when my grandmother, I don't say she died because she did. She literally transitioned. She lived her life and graduated home to her final resting place. So when my grandmother transitioned, I came amazing. We had a disagreement or whatever. He told me he needed to space apart. I'm like, okay, this came out of the blue, and I'm like, okay, well, let me find me some business and stay busy because you shake the routine, you shake you shake the band, you shake whatever it is once you shake the routine. So I was writing notes in my phone. One,
Hmm.
I was just writing notes, and I'm like, wow, I can turn this into a book. Turn my story into a book. Let me certify to be a life and health coach. Let me elevate my life and pour back into my cup the same that I was pouring into his. Pour that all back into me. So I'm grateful, and I realized that that happened for a reason. I feel like he came in my life for a season, the way they say people are for a season or a reason. So the season was that season, and the reason was because God knew without my grandmother, and if I didn't have someone else to fall back on, I would have taken 10 steps backwards. And that's not what He wanted me to do. He wanted me to fall back on someone. Our journey was over. God had something else for me to do, and it was to help other women learn how to build a bridge and get over that shit, just like I did.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, because you know what? Sometimes like when we're in it, you know, like we 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 know what we want, but we can't see clear. And then when we're looking back, we're like, oh, that makes sense.
Hmm.
That makes all the sense in the world. That makes sense why that happened.
Yeah.
Um, Did you find yourself, because writing is quite therapeutic,
It's very.
did you find yourself, you know, being able to realize things that you didn't necessarily realize in the moment as you're rewriting your story and make certain connections? And if so, what were those?
I realized that I was in a battle with myself for 20 plus years. It was a battle with myself. All I had to do was let go. I was holding on to things that I couldn't change or control. I can't change the past. No matter how much it hurt me, no matter how much I wanted it to be different, I can't change it. So expecting someone to be who you want them to be when they are who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a battle with myself.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my mom, it wasn't my son's father, it wasn't anyone doing anything to me. All I had to do was let go and accept people for who they are. And that's it.
I love that. Accepting people who they are. Like, what, I know we talked a bit about, um, we talked about the statement when parents are like, I'm not one of your little friends.
Oh yeah. And
And
I
that,
understand it.
and that seemed to be like a trigger statement.
Yeah. Because for me, I am one of my son's little friends. I'm one of his big friends. I'm his friend. The reason why I'm my son's little friend is because if I'm not his little friend now and I'm only his parent and I'm using my parenting as control, because if you're not using your parenting skill as a control tactic, how come you're not a little friend or a big friend or an overall friend? And I'm his friend because once he grows up and I'm not his parent, I'll always be his mother, but I'm not his parent because I'm not parenting him, I'm not taking care of him. What do I have? You can't walk into a friendship. It's something that's built. And I want to have that solid foundation so when he's out on his own, he can call me and we can talk, we can hang out. How you and your girl doing? How you and your wife? Oh, I'm a part of his life still. Now that it's not like, okay, you ain't my parent no more. You just my mom. We this, we that, whatever the case may be. I didn't want that for him. So I am his little friend. I'm his big friend. I'm his friend. I'm his mother. And I feel like if your kids does, if they can't respect you as their mother and still have fun with you, reflect on you and how you parent.
And that's you asking me my parents do something that they don't like to do.
Yeah.
That's tough.
But they should reflect because when they grow up, you can't use you're disrespectful. How am I disrespectful? I'm just telling you how I feel. You can't tell me to shut up. And I don't have to listen. I don't have to talk. I don't have to do things that you're like, go sit down. I'm gonna just go home. Like
Mm-hmm.
once that parenting control thing is done, what do you have? You have nothing. And
I love that. That, looking at parenting as a method of control versus looking at it as a method of what?
a method of this is what I signed up for.
Mm,
The kids didn't ask to be here. So
yeah.
times I brought you in this world so I could take you out. Says who? Like how do you believe that? And or like I do this for you, I do that for you. Well, I asked to be here. So this is what you signed up for. You can't take care of me and throw it in my face as if I asked you to be born. You made a choice. So and that's something for example, when my son gets older, I'm not going to take his money for my bills. My bills are my bills with or without him. I am going to collect money from him, and that money is going to go into an account where then that way it's like, okay, when you've gotten a trade, graduated, whatever the case may be, you've done something. This is a down payment on your car, your house, your condo, whatever the case may be. But my bills are my bills with or without you. And that's
Yeah.
the thing that parents would do. Just give me money. As soon as you get a job, it's like take half my check. Well, how do you expect me to get ahead? You
Yeah.
pass down, you pass down like a struggle. Like why? How is that fair to your children?
Yeah, that's the audience, the audience is like making comments about the statement that you made. He said, "Not go sit down. I could just go home."
Yeah,
That's good.
I'm gonna just go home. It's no more. Just go sit down or shut up. Talk to you later. And I'm gonna remove myself because I'm not that little girl you remember. I push my own wheels. I pay my own bills. I'm gonna just head out. Talk to you later. Love you. Bye bye.
But sometimes it's not even worth the headache.
It's
And
not.
I hear you on that.
I love you. I respect you. But I'm gonna just head out.
Yeah, and then I mean, I'm sure that that's even is tough for both parties, and it might not even be tough on the child's part because finally they get to say what they want, they get to do
Yeah.
what they want.
It's not tough for us. It's tough for the parent, I would say, because
Hmm.
they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do after, because the when you use parenting as control, the hardest part to accept is that you no longer have it. Like, I can't control you. I can't tell you what to do. I can't do anything. What can I do to destroy and take my control? How can I make you need me? I don't put myself in that position. Read my book and you'll find out. Um, it's just so many people will be able to relate in one way or another, multiple ways.
That really, it really just hits me of like that control mechanism. Because in my mind, it's like, whoa, I didn't even realize that. Like, yeah, a lot of parents are quite controlling,
Yeah.
and there is a balance between that friendship, like what you were saying. Like, I know for me with my mother, like, you know, there was a good balance between like I'm the disciplinarian, but also like we do have a friendship. Because after I left for school, like if we didn't have that friendship, I wouldn't have kept talking. You know what I mean? Like it's like you have to be around, but then you choose to be around
Mm-hmm.
later on. And cross culturally, I think it differs, but yeah, it's just having that respect and like how is the um like we're talking a lot about kind of like power and defense. What is like the narcissistic, kind of gaslighting portion of that parenting? Like,
It I can only speak from my experience.
mhm.
He is more so whenever you have an accomplishment, it's like dimmed. Like it's like something that, for example, I couldn't write a book. I'm like, you could if you wanted to. Well, I'm private. I'm this. I'm that. Well, write a child's book. Write whatever you want, and you're using that to say that I'm attacking you again to try to make me feel a certain way, but I won't. Like, well, it's parts of my book that I wouldn't tell. That's about me because I wouldn't have said that. I'm like, well, here's the thing though. It affected me, so it's my story, and that's why I have to tell it. Don't read my book as you are the center of attention. And the question again, if you were the superhero and not the villain, how would you feel? So it's many things. Like, you're in a relationship, a happy relationship. Like, well, all men start off that way. No, they don't. No,
Yeah.
they don't. So it's like gaslighting any chance of happiness, any anything that you're in awe with. Let me blow it up in your face or make you insecure about it. However, for me, it doesn't work because I know when my intuition is speaking to me and when my insecurities. And a lesson that I taught myself is do not confuse my insecurities with my intuition because both of them
Mhm.
are loud. They speak very loud, but it's up to you to know the difference.
Oh, okay. So talking point, boom. What is the difference between your insecurities and your intuition?
Intuition is something that you know to be true. Something, for example, like I know that I left the oven on because I when I was cleaning, I didn't turn it off. But I think I did. So that's your intuition. Like,
Hmm.
I know I messed that up. Insecurity is he didn't call me. I wonder is he with another girl? But he didn't. Nothing transpired. You're projecting something that you've experienced from a previous relationship or something he's done, which is a trigger. Intuition is different. You feel it in your whole heart, not in your mind. Intuition, it speaks to you from the gut. it comes up. Like intuition is a mental thing. I mean, insecurity. I'm sorry. It's in your mind. You don't feel insecurity. It's all mindset. It's trapped in your head. You can't sleep at night. But when your intuition, you just wake up like, I know this is about to happen. Like for example, when my grandmother was transitioning, my intuition was telling me that it was going to happen when I had to travel for work. I just feel it. I know she is, and it happened. Insecurity is something different. It's just something that's on your mind and that you're making up in your head. You have no proof. Intuition, you just feel it. If that makes sense to anyone else.
Yeah, no, that makes all the sense, because insecurity is, yeah, there's a thin line between that.
Yeah.
I know, especially throughout my life, we said, deep. Throughout my life, it's being able to define that, especially as a woman, because you do have a lot of emotions and a lot of, and you're trying to piece together, what is this that I'm feeling? What is this thing that just keeps like
Yeah.
building up? Is that my intuition? Like, and hearing that voice, you know what I mean? And that's like, it's all like a process,
Yeah.
and like you were saying, women, we run it, we run the world, we do all these things. So there's so much for us to even learn as women, and things that our parents need to talk to us about, like sex, like, like like educated, even whether we choose to have babies or not, educating us about like our breasts and what breast examinations look like, what do these things look like, because there's no more like shame in the game.
Right.
It's kind of like either you're going to prepare me for the world or the world is going to prepare me.
And it's just that. And so many parents leave you to let the world prepare you. You're 18 now. You need to get out my house. Well, I'm still a kid. When I think of an 18-year-old now, I'm like, that's a kid. You're a child at 18 years old. But then once we act like we're grown at 18, then we're reprimanded for thinking we're grown. But you just told me I could go because I'm 18. So make it
Mhm.
make sense. Make it make sense.
I can't. I can't. I can't. Um, what do you feel about, like going through this and coming into self love, right? So I'm sure there was a lot of self love work, especially when a mother's love isn't as. But one thing I learned last night, actually, my mom and I were watching Underground, and it's this show on Amazon, and we were watching it, and what she was telling me was like, when a baby is hungry, like the woman can feel it because her breasts get full.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. So it's kind of like, and I was like, so it's like this kind of connection. And she was like, yeah. I mean, she was like, you ever noticed when, you might be babysitting a kid, because I did a lot of babysitting growing up. You might be babysitting a kid and you might be feeding the child, and the parents calling, hey, how are they doing? Oh, that's wonderful, and blah, blah, blah. And like they might be pumping their breast at that moment when they're calling you. And I was like, wow, I never would have connected that. And so intuitively, the child and the mother are so connected. So how did you find yourself healing yourself
I found myself
without having that relationship?
with my son or my mom.
Both. You having a child and you healing as a child.
So healing from my mom, it took for me to have my son to begin. I won't say that I have fully healed. I healed until I wrote my book. Like my book was the most therapeutic journey and journey of self discovery, and to myself, just I tapped into who I really am. But as far as with my son, without giving away the stories in my book, there's a part in my book that I speak about. It took for me to put him through a very similar trauma that I've experienced for me to really figure it out what I was doing wrong. And truly so, so I won't say I have it all figured out. I'm doing it all the way right. my son and I have a very open communication. Apply pressure on him with his school, but I was trying to give him what I never had. And it's my mom really cared about my grades, stay on top of me and keep me motivated. And one time he was out visiting his father and he had got his first bad grade. And I was like, "What are you doing? You're not paying attention. You're not focused, la di da." And I had came down on him. And he was like, "I don't know how to be perfect." And that broke my heart. But I'm
Mm.
also so grateful that he could express himself to me. So every day I'm learning how to do parenting. Like you never really know if you're doing it right or wrong. Because just when you think you're doing it right and you're doing it perfect, you got it down pat. You have to tweak a little. So
Yeah.
that helped me with my healing, just knowing that I'm making progress. I'm doing it different than what my mom did. Because there's no way I could have told my mom I don't know how to be perfect. What you mean you don't know how to be perfect? You didn't got to be perfect, and it would have been yelling. And I'm like, okay, well I shouldn't have said nothing at all. Like,
Yeah.
so, that's healing alone for me. Oh, my son gets straight A's, 1B. He's doing it all 4 quarters in fourth grade honor roll. That's something I didn't do at fourth grade because getting bad grades was a great thing. Simply because I knew that's how I would get my mom's attention.
Mm.
So I did things to know that she cared about me. It
Yeah.
cost me in the long run. You'll read about it in my book.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. And you know what? That's so interesting that you said that because I want to say last week I was having that conversation and I was saying how a child will do anything to get the parents' attention.
they will.
Whether it's good or whether it's bad.
Yeah.
You know, they'll find a way to get the parent that they're looking for attention.
Hmm.
And sometimes, you know, it looks different ways. And, you know, like with that being said, you know, a lot of these statements are normal, you know, and these parents they don't care, you know, they don't necessarily care about they have the good intentions, but they don't see what they're doing as harmful.
No, because even after you do the things to get their attention in a negative way, you're labeled. Like, you're bad, you're crazy, you're this, you're that, but nothing's wrong with me. I'm just trying to see that you care. I was just trying to see something. That's it, that's all. Or if you do something good, it's like, okay, great job, go sit down. So either way, when a parent is not in tune with their child and there's a disconnect, no matter what you do, is going to be there. That's just how it is. Um, and for me and my son's relationship, it's foreign to my mom. She joked about it. She was like, "You're, you guys are, you so funny. Y'all so attached to each other. Well, that's typically how you're supposed to be with your parent. I'm all he know, and he's literally my best friend. That's my little best friend. He held me accountable throughout my whole book writing process. How many pages, how many words, how many this? You're gonna have a book on Amazon. You're gonna have a book in the stores. You're gonna have a book like this. And I knew that if I did not finish, that I was gonna set the foundation for him to give up. And then he would throw that back at me. Well, I remember when I was little, you were supposed to write a book. How do I know? Because I was that person. And that's typically how it goes.
So you have to. It's almost as if you have to be the the parent almost that you wish you had in a way.
No,
Because
that you have to be. That is who I'm being, the parent that I wish I had, because they say your love language is what you didn't receive as a child. And that's definitely my love language. My love language in relationship, no matter what the case may be, whatever the relationship is communication. That's something I didn't have. Communication is big to me. I believe communication can solve every problem in the world. All we got to do is talk about it. Talk about
mm,
it. It fixes everything, in my personal belief. It can fix everything.
I'm with you on that. I'm
Really
with you on
good one. All you had to do is explain it or talk about it, but you can't talk about it. Well, what do I do?
that. Yeah. Yeah, that communication is important. And even when you were talking about your son being able to express himself and be comfortable in expressing himself and be comfortable in expressing his frustration to
Yes.
you as well. Because it's always like, you respect me. But like, that respect looks differently. Like it's different. It's one thing if the child's being disrespectful, you know, and but it's another thing if it's like what I notice with children is they learn from you. So you're looking at yourself.
And when a child is being disrespectful, I always, in my personal opinion, the parents should reflect. What am I doing wrong that my kid doesn't respect me? Have a conversation, communicate. What's going on? I asked you to do this. Make sure they understand what you're asking. Don't just go straight to the belt. That won't solve anything. Don't go straight to yelling. You have to sometimes, you as a parent, you have to do a lot of reflecting. And that's what I do so much of. Mari, I told you 2, 3 times to go and get that. Did you understand what I said? Did you hear me? Did you? I ask questions and I reflect on me. Like, okay, should I have been more firm? Should I have done this different? Because if your child is being disrespectful and you know that you've shown your kids respect, you know that you've done everything right, have that conversation with your child. Keep that open door of communication because there's a disconnect somewhere.
Mm.
There's a disconnect.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel that there's always that, you know, that that there's that balance, like you were saying before, but I wouldn't even say control, but more like guidance,
Yeah.
right? Because there's still a control in guidance, but it's like I'm guiding. I'm not telling you this
More
in
I don't call it control. I'm just leading. I'm just
yeah.
down the right path. And so for me, it's just I'm gonna lead by example. I give my son the same respect that I demand from him. The same respect that I demand, I'm gonna give it to you. So then that way I can't say I didn't know how to respect my mom. It's not that I chose not to. I didn't know how to respect you because we didn't communicate. You yelled at me, and once I got old enough to speak freely and how I wanted without you telling me to shut up and go sit down, I talked to you the same way you talk to me. I didn't know how to respect her because we never had communication. I
Hmm.
have to talk to her nice because we spent our whole lives talking at each other. You only talked at me. You never talked to me. She never talked to me. So once I was old enough to talk back at her, then I was the utmost dish. But you never taught me how to respect you
Hmm.
because you never led by example. So I teach my son how to respect me. And when there's a disconnect and I feel he's being disrespectful, we have a conversation. What's going on? I asked you to do this. You're getting sassy. What's the problem? Are you having a good day? Those are questions we weren't asked. You're not having a bad day. You don't pay any bills. You're not depressed. You're not sad. You're not this. We were told how we don't feel. How you gonna tell me how I feel? I am sad. Or like you hurt yourself. That don't hurt. You okay. But I just hit the shit out of my elbow. Like, so
Yeah. Yeah. It's like writing, taking the pen away from the child so you can write their story. But that goes back to what you were saying of that control of the narcissism of if it doesn't match the manipulator, if it doesn't match your story, then you know, then that's
you can picture.
yeah, if it
This
doesn't fit your picture.
so don't draw this picture because the story's supposed to look like this and that is it. That is all. Go sit down because you're disrespectful. Like, okay.
Mm. We have a long comment from Miss April working on April. I love that name, April working on April. I love that. Is that I'm learning from this message. I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old I'm still trying to connect with because of their differences. I didn't have that parent guidance growing up, and I'm 38 now, still trying to have that connection with my mom. I don't want to have that bond with my kids.
So it's just taking the time to actively listen to them. And after they tell you what the case may be, listen and accept it for what it is. Don't try to repaint their picture. And that's so many times what goes on. People try to repaint the picture of what we just told. I told you, here's how I feel. Here's what it is. Don't tell me, well, no, because I didn't do that. You did though. And so many times we're told we tell people how they made us feel, and they say, no, I didn't do that. Well, that's not what I tried to do. Okay, well, help me understand. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Um, And the thing is, and this is kind of off the topic, like I tell people, I'm not nice, Khadijah. and I never will portray to be. I'm not mean either. I'm a genuine person. I'm honest. I'm assertive, and I'm direct. Because once you say no, the nice title is stripped anyway. You're no longer nice anyway. So save it. Keep it for yourself. I don't want it. So for me, I'm a genuine person because if it doesn't come from my heart, don't count on me to do it. I'm not nice.
Mhm.
Nice to me is a person who doesn't say no, a person who's easily pushed over. That's what nice people are, a person who's just always looking for validation, who wants acceptance. And I say that because I'm speaking from my own experience because I used to be that nice person. Because when you're young, you only know nice or mean. No one wants to be mean, so I'll just be nice. I'll say yes to everything because I don't want to be mean. I'm not a good person if I say no and if I set that boundary. It's okay to have boundaries and it's okay to be you and do it if you feel like, and if you don't, you won't. It's okay.
I I love that, and that really resonates with me. I'm always open with my audience about things I'm going through, whatever. One thing that I noticed was there's a moment, where I started standing up for myself,
Yeah.
and I started catching the little subliminal things people
Mm,
were saying to me. It would be like, like underhanded compliments, where it'd be like, I don't even have an example to give, but it's like underhanded,
I
and you can hear it. It's something small,
yeah,
right? And then when you necessarily like call the person out on it, and you're like, hey, whoa, I just caught that. Like I never caught that before. Have they always talked to me like that, or am I? Because I'm studying more about myself and self
yeah,
development, and now I'm starting to notice it, and I'm like, wait a minute, don't talk to me like that. When you
no,
speak to me with respect. And I
exactly.
remember putting that boundary down and a friend just going like ballistic basically because I was like, when you talk to me, I don't care what kind of matter it is, when you talk to me with respect. And if you can't respect that, then you gotta go. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, I'm not gonna come out of my skin, come out of my character, come out of anything. Either A, you're gonna respect me, or B, you don't have any access
You
to me.
don't have to have access to me. And once you tap into yourself and get in tune with who you are, people take your growth for a weakness. And then they try to walk all over you because they can't understand who you are now. I used to be pop off P. Say something to me wrong, I'm popping off, coming at you like firecracker. That I don't know who she is anymore. She expired. She doesn't reside in me anymore. So the steps of elevation to me is like, when your idea is just an idea, but once it becomes a reality and is manifesting, people take off their masks. People reveal who they really are. Then after everyone is revealing, you go into isolation. That's step two. You isolate. And after you come out of isolation, you get in alignment with people you can see yourself being friends with, people who are similar to you. I am a genuine person. I'm not a nice person. I want to be surrounded by genuine people. I don't want to be surrounded by nice people who think that I should transact how they do. Just because you're nice don't mean I have to be. I don't want to be in alignment with you. Because the moment I tell you no, you're going to feel some type of way. I'm not responsible for your feelings. I'm responsible for mine. Um, I'm not gonna, if I do apologize, I won't change the statement. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings, and that's just that. An apology doesn't mean a statement change. It just means I'm sorry for how I made you feel. But I said what I said. That doesn't change the statement. So um I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah, you feel me because you
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, because apology is more like I, I meant what I said.
yeah,
I said what I said.
and I hope
However, I didn't realize in the way that I said the message that
exactly.
you would react this way or you would respond back this way. That's the part where I'm like, like kind of like, mm,
And
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Like, and everyone is, kind of like where they are. And sometimes like understanding like even though I thought, like you were talking about a season, a reason, a lifetime, I thought we could go this far together, but I'm learning that we aren't
yeah, as you
meant to go that far together.
grow,
So it's okay. And
it's
it goes back to what you were talking about with that relationship that you were in and how you were like, I love you, but I love you so much and I'm willing to liberate you and let you go.
yes, strength is having the ability to love them but still leave them, and that's just that. Let go. For me, It was more so not only because I love him and I let him set him free, whatever the case, but because if I did not respect his space and set him free, what does that do to me? Now he controls my emotions because I'm trying to make him be ready for something that he's not. And he told me that, and he's showing me he's not ready. Now he controls my emotions. And typically, when someone controls your emotions, who do you take it out on? The person right in front of you. Now I'm repeating that same cycle and taking it out on my son when he's just trying to be a kid, just trying to show me something, just trying to be happy. And now I'm like, go sit down, leave me alone, don't talk to me. And he's like, now he's sad and I throw off his day. And now, no. So, just let it go when the time is up. Because here's the thing, too. Staying won't extend your stay. It will just waste your time. Staying when your time is up, it's just going to waste your time. It won't extend your stay. When it's up, it's up.
If it's up, then it's stuck.
It's stuck. It's just that. And so, you let go and find you some business. I found me something to do. I'm like, okay. And so I'm grateful because I'm like, okay, if he did not tell me that he needed space apart, I don't know if this would even exist right now. If he did not tell me he needed space apart, I don't even know if I would have my certification because I would be like, oh, where we going today? What we doing today? What we eating today? What should I cook? Where should we hang out? Where are we doing? So take that energy and put it back into yourself. Pour into your cup the way you, whatever the relationship, whatever it was that you were pouring into, take it and pour it back into you. And I promise you won't be sad. You won't feel nothing. You'll be able to respect whatever the case is.
Yes, I love that. People serve as, we have these lessons. I like to look at life as a classroom. And we have these lessons, and, just when, like, I remember I was so disappointed in this friend because I'm like, yo, why do I have to come out of crib? Why do I have to talk to you like this for you listen? And it was like bringing out this like toxic side of me that I haven't seen in like years, right? And so I was like, I had to reevaluate myself and be like, oh, I don't have to respond to this. I've done the work. I've done the work. I've done the work. But just because maybe they haven't done the work, that doesn't mean you ruin all the work that you've ever done to come down to that level. No. What do you know to do? Calmness of mind. Be calm. Walk away. You don't have to respond. You don't have to deal with it. Because you don't have to.
You don't have to. Especially when you've healed and you know who you are. I don't want to be around anyone who triggers that person in me, because that person doesn't exist. And if you have any potential to trigger it, we don't have to be friends. We never have to talk again.
Hey, stop. Can you go emphasize on that part? Please go in.
To be friends, if you're going to trigger who I used to be because you can't accept me for the growth and who I am today, please remove yourself. I'm fine with that. Here's the thing, Khadijah. I lost my grandmother January 2020. I could pray, I could fast, I could eat right, I could do whatever. It won't bring her back. But I'll get another friend, I'll get another boyfriend, I'll get another whatever the case may be. So therefore, like I said earlier, shake the routine, you shake the person. Half the time when it's toxic, it's just really the routine that you're used to. Because what do you miss about a toxic person? Just the routine. You shake the routine, find you some business, live your life for you, self-reflect, and I bet you won't miss that person anymore. You'll just go on with your life. Like, oh yeah, I used to know her. I don't know what happened to her. How's she doing, And you'll move on. It's just like,
I love that. Because it's just so nice to hear that, like, you shake the routine, you shake the person.
Yeah, shake the routine, because half the time it's just the routine. It's just the routine. Oh, yeah. Like, text her today. Let me text her. Do you really have anything to talk about, or is it the routine?
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like, okay. Shake the routine, you shake the person. Habit change and mindset change creates therapeutic views. Hence, therapeutic views is my business name. Because habit change, shake all of that, shake whatever it is.
I love that. Do you have any other, besides everyone go get her book?
It's on
Complicated Tears.
Noble and on Amazon, titled Complicated Tears by Precious Watkins.
Yes, and we have the lovely Precious Watkins. And reading those Amazon reviews, I am quite sure nobody will be disappointed at all. I mean, even you coming on the show was quite healing, and
You.
just, I'm sure other people are having issues with their children and maybe even communicating as well. April worked on April said, I got mine. Oh, that's real. And April working on April, thank you so much for coming on and sharing and being vulnerable with us about, your relationship with, with your mom and connecting, because that's, especially as a woman, like that's a, that's a tough relationship not to necessarily have. Um, and we have another comment, Garrett Goggins. Hey, here. He said, that is what setting boundaries are all about. Here is where I am at. Are you on board? No? Okay. Bye, Felicia.
Period. Period.
Yes. Bye, Felicia. I love that. Yes. Bye, Felicia. And yeah, like just like setting those boundaries. And it's just like, in kids, having the kids set boundaries
Yeah,
too.
I told my son the same thing. I said, Damari, you are not nice and you're not to be nice. You're a kind kid. You're a genuine kid. You're honest, assertive, and direct. Because I don't want him to grow up thinking like, oh, I have to be nice. If I don't do this, I'm mean. Nuh-uh. You're kind, you're genuine, you do it if you want to. And that's just that. You will not pour into anyone's cup that's not pouring into yours. He doesn't eat pork or beef. I do. I let him be a kid. I want him to know who he is. If you don't want to eat it, you don't have to. I'll eat ground turkey with you. But I'm gonna eat that pork and beef when you ain't looking.
But I love that. You know what? That's the same with my mom and I. I don't eat pork or beef, but if there's a pork chop or some ribs, she gonna have it. But I'm not participating in it. I'll order something else.
I'm just look at him and be his strong willed self. And like
I love that. I love that you give him the freedom to be an individual, and even you finding yourself uh, with a child, right? He's kind of grown with you growing. So that's
year battle with myself. 20 plus years battle with myself.
and now you healing. You
Yeah,
healing with everybody.
I'm good. I'm happy. I know who Precious is. Whoever
Yes.
she wanna be. Like
Whoever she wants to be.
I wanna be. I'm me. That's when people ask, "Oh, who is Precious?" Precious. Precious is what day is it today? Today is Wednesday. Mm, I don't know who I feel like being, but I'm me. Whoever it is that I choose to be is who I am, and that's just that.
Yes. That is the perfect way. Can you tell everyone where they can follow you, any upcoming things, just to close out?
Yes. So you can follow me on therapeutic on Instagram, and my Instagram name is therapeutic views underscore coaching. My type it
No, is it they're the one scrolling? Can you see it scrolling at the bottom? It's therapeutic views
yes
underscore coach.
for coach. Yes, you can
Mhm.
follow me there. I do have Facebook, and it is therapeutic views underscore therapeutic views dot coaching, but preferably follow me on Instagram. I'll respond. Again, I do also have my life coaching, so you can message me on Instagram or inbox me on my website, and that is therapeuticviews.com.
Thank you so much, Precious, for this amazing interview and being vulnerable and being open and telling your story
Yes,
and crossing the bridge and getting over that shit.
build a bridge and get over that shit, player. That's
Yes,
that.
build a bridge and get over that shit.
Tip, don't mistake your insecurities for your intuition. Also, strength is vulnerability, not burying yourself in pain and calling it strength because it doesn't cross your mind. I don't feel it, so I'm strong. You won't get it that way because it's always going to resurface and trigger you. So it comes with vulnerability, and vulnerability is removing a band aid. You cut yourself, you rinse it off, you put a band aid on it because you're like, oh, it's going to make it heal. It doesn't heal until you remove that band aid and let it air out. So remember, be vulnerable and you will get your strength and you will be able to live life in your fullest potential and you'll flourish. So that's what I want to end with.
Yes, that's a good word. I have nothing else to say. Let's go ahead and close this out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Precious, thank you so much for coming on here. We truly appreciate you. I know I got and learned a lot out of it. I'll see you backstage, girl.
Okie doke.
All right.
All right.